Hi, everyone. I'm Jenn Thompkins, and I am so delighted to have you all join us tonight for an amazing conversation that we are having with some women leaders. And so I have an esteemed panel or esteemed guests that are here with us tonight. And so Val, we'll kick it off with you. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Valerie Longhurst. I'm the Speaker of the House, the first female Speaker of the House in the history of Delaware in the House of Representatives. I got involved because of a personal issue with my daughter. My daughter had alopecia where she lost all of her hair. And as a mother, if you have children, you know that they mean everything to you. And you want to maintain your children's self-esteem and make sure that their future is bright. When my daughter was in second grade, she lost all of her hair, her eyebrows, and everything. So as a mother, I became her advocate. I didn't know what advocacy was until I knew what she was going to have to go through, and I had to be the stronger person to get her through that. So I tried to raise awareness. I went into the schools, and one day I called my state representative, who was a male Republican in my district, and I wanted to do a 5K to raise awareness, and he ignored my phone call. He ignored my phone call. You don't ignore a woman, especially a woman with a child, right? And that was the biggest mistake he ever made.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what does this state representative do? I had no idea what a state rep was, wasn't involved in politics at all. And I was like, so they do what? They go do policy, they help people? I'm like, well, I can help people because if I had an issue with my daughter, is he listening to other people? And I wanted to be that voice. So I was like, well, I could do that.
Yeah.
Actually had no idea what I was getting myself into. I still don't. But so I decided, I'm like, well, what does that person do? And I met a few people, and actually John Carney was a lieutenant governor at the time. Okay. And he came to my house, and my kids were running all over the place, and I'm like, oh my God, I have a lieutenant governor in my house, and talking to me about the good and bad, ugly, about running for office. And when he got done with me, I realized that I needed to do something bigger for myself and for my daughter. And I needed to rise up to the occasion because I knew if he wasn't listening to other people, he wasn't listening to other people. So I decided to run for office. And I lost the first time around. It was very shocking because anybody in this room like to win or like to lose?
No.
Yeah,
We're all winners here for sure. We're all winners.
I do not like to lose. So I ran again the second time. And the second time when I ran, I only won by 26 votes.
Wow.
So your vote does count, your voice counts. And when I got into office, I could tell you when I got on the House floor and I sat there and they called my name, I'm like, what do I do now? Really had no idea what I was doing. But 20 years later, I became the majority whip, the majority leader, and then the Speaker of the House. My daughter is now 30 years old. She's a thriving, beautiful young woman who is stronger than I could ever be. So I think I did a pretty darn good job.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Let's give it up. Marla.
So, I don't even know where to begin. That was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I identify with the advocacy piece of it. And as an autoimmune disorder survivor myself, and I see a sister vitiligo survivor out in the audience, you know, it takes strong advocates for individuals that do not have access to people in positions of power. So I thank you for all of us to be down there being the badass that you are. So I too am in politics, but not in front, but behind the scenes. My name is Marla Blunt Carter.
Yeah.
The blunt is what stands out. I grew up in a very political family. My dad first ran for office in 1982 and lost. And that gave him the drive and the desire to run again, ultimately serving on city council for 24 years here in the great city of Wilmington. So I grew up seeing politics and understanding how important it was to our everyday lives. And I don't mean the president, I don't mean the U.S. Senate, I mean city council, I mean state reps, I mean Dover. And so I saw my dad navigating all of these spaces and doing it with a social work perspective. My dad had an MSW in social work, but he was an educator as well. So he worked in the school district for 30 years. But it was the social work piece that really gave him his moral compass. And that's what he instilled in us. And so, you know, I wanted to see other people like my dad in all this. And for the last 25 years, I've been helping people run for office, including our current U.S. Congresswoman and my big sister, Lisa Block-Rochester. And you made history when you were elected into that top spot. Lisa made history in 2016 when she was elected as the first woman and the first person of color in the U.S. House of Representatives. And hopefully she will make history again when Kamala Harris makes history.
Gonna talk about it.
Unbelievable thing. But I think for me, people have seen me as a leader here because I've just been an advocate for different individuals, organizations, and policies that really impact the most vulnerable people. My day job is as an associate professor of social work at Rutgers University. So my desire is to train up as many social workers as I can to be involved in the electoral process, to understand the importance of civic engagement, to create as many Ted Blunts as I can.
That's right. That's right.
That's what I'm going to do.
That's right.
And, you know, I pride myself on just being very blunt.
I like that.
I like that.
And people appreciate that honesty because they know it comes from a place of So I am an educator. I'm a social worker. I'm a political consultant. I am currently consulting on the Harris-Walsh campaign.
That's right. That's right. Congratulations.
And I've moved in the last 5 or 10 years from an advisor to a consultant. Advisors don't get paid.
That hard.
Now my advice costs money.
Come on now.
And so I think it's important that we know our work.
That's right. That's right.
And so that's where I am right now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
And then last but not least, well, how am I going to follow these two, right? That's going to be tough. Well, I'm Yvonne Deadwyler. I'm actually the current president and CEO of the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce. Yes. And I am the first, along with my good friend Val, the first female president in 102 years. So that's an exciting thing, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into either. So it was an interesting experience, and I have to thank, of course, my wonderful husband and my children that pushed me to go into leadership, because I really went back to work. And I've been in education, I've been in banking, I've been in various industries. But it was interesting when I joined the chamber, it was more so to just get back into the workforce. I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years. And it was just for me, the main goal of the reason why I do what I do is to make an impact. And that's always been my vision. That's always been a part of my core values, is how can I make an impact? And in this capacity, it's more how can I make an impact, not only in the nonprofit community, but in the business community, in the entrepreneurial community, in the government community. So in different aspects of how can I make a difference. And I think that was part of the reason, because I was so passionate about the work that I was doing, that in 5 years, I went from, director of member relations to president of the Newcastle County Chamber. And it's been a great journey. I have an amazing team that has supported me through the process. And I think that's important when you're in leadership, to have an awesome team, a fantastic team, and a fun team.
And a fun team.
There's a lot going on.
Work.
Yeah, but I have two of my team members here. So it's been a great experience, and nothing but short, but I'm happy to do this work.
All right, awesome. Let's give it up. So I will just tell you, I'm really, really excited to just have this conversation, just because of, one, the most recent, or I would say the largest announcement of the summer right, that has come out, and that is Kamala Harris running for president, right? And so President Joe Biden did formally endorse her, and she is now the Democratic nominee. But all the yes. But even with all of that, even with her overqualifications, right, you still see misogyny rear its ugly head. And so we see it in so many different ways. And so one way in which I've seen it the last couple of weeks, you know, people keep on, they question her work. They question, what has she done, right? And I think about my day-to-day life. No one no one on the internet is coming to my job and asking, what have you done today? But yet this woman who is sitting in this very high seat, who's overqualified, is being asked that, right? And so one of the things that I think is that a lot of these things that we see, even with the Kamala Harris, is in our everyday lives, especially as women who do lead. And so if let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of those challenges, some of the challenges that you all have faced with leading, right? I heard a lot of firsts up here. And so it's great to be a pioneer, but it's hard. We all know that, right? And so let's just chat about some of these challenges that have come up in your leadership journey. Yeah, whoever, this is a conversation.
Well, I think a lot of it is just more, you have to embrace where you are. You have to embrace where your journey, whether you do get your critics that will come and say, okay, well, is she qualified to do the job, right? Being in a male-dominated world, as you know, it is a little more difficult and challenging, and you do always have to be at your best. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that we can't afford not to be at our best. And so that's always been a challenge, is making sure you're always on, but in an authentic way. Because there's always going to be the naysayers. There's always going to be someone but you have to learn, I think we were talking about this upstairs, how do you zone that out, right? Because you're really there, do the job, and you have a mission and kind of the vision of where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Now, I don't think you zone it out. I think you let that be your fuel.
Yeah.
And so I don't let the negative perception and the pressure and the expectation be seen as a bad thing. To me, it's a motivation. I'm always going to give my best anyway. So it is not even a distraction anymore. It's almost like an expectation, right? We're like, well, we know we're going to have to do twice as much to get in order for that. So I don't even carry that with me anymore. I just go into the room, do my best, and let that speak for itself. And eventually, the racism, the sexism sort of melts away. You know what I mean? Because the work it speaks for itself, right? And so, and I don't let other people's their bias in any way get in the way of me even doing the work. I don't get upset by it. I mean, society is created on it, you know what I mean? And so I spend my life trying to dismantle these systems. So I'm not surprised when I'm faced with it. You know what I mean? It's there. We just deal with it, unpack it. I don't accept it, but at the same time, I don't let it dictate how I'm going to operate. Right.
Yeah. And what you said about unpacking is really, really, really huge, right? And so in making sure that you contextualize exactly where this is coming from. So what are some of the things that you all do on a regular basis, right? That helps you to unpack those things? Because we say this, right? But when you go into the fire, sometimes, real time, there is very difficult. So what are some of the things that you all do to really unpack that, right? Whether it's relationships or what have you.
Something as simple as, help me to understand what you meant by that. That ain't mine.
Explain
that right back.
That's
Then they're like, oh Lord, what did I say? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to help you with this. You made that mess. So help me to understand.
Yeah.
That was and then, oh well, I didn't no, but I need to understand so that we can move forward in this project. Right? Yeah, I have them give context for what they just said.
Yeah, see,
for what they just do.
You put it back on them. You're like, I'm not even owning that, right? I'm going to put it back on that.
And not even angry.
Right.
That's right, because we got to work together.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. I mean, and that's absolutely true, right? I don't understand where you're coming from, right? Can you explain it to me a little bit more, right? Can you give me some context around that? Absolutely. Anyone else around that?
I actually, I see it as static around me. And because of social media and everything like that, and I'm in the political eye all the time, and people love to hate me, hate to love me. I'm not really sure.
They can't please everyone.
You know, they're gonna, as soon as a woman walks into the room in leadership, they eye you up and down. Hey, did she wear that dress before? Are those shoes the same? And but they never ask a man, oh, that tie you wore yesterday.
Yep.
You know, so when I have to walk up on the dais, everybody's looking at me and they're sizing me up. And if I'm not smiling, it's a whole different day because they're like, Val's mad. But when a guy walks into the room and he's not smiling, it's just kind of like, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah.
But what I start my day with, I am very much into getting up early in the morning, working out. I get myself involved. I get up at 6 a.m. in the morning and I have a routine. I see Ricky at the gym. He used to be at the Y. He didn't go as often as me. I'd be like, where you been a month ago? Like, where you been? I've done 21 triathlons. I put my energy. So that's biking, swimming, and running. And what I realize is, like, when I'm on that mode and I'm on that train of, like, I'm on the treadmill or I'm riding my bike or I'm walking, I'm putting the day in perspective, being prepared to what's going to happen to me throughout the day, who's going to come at me, how I'm going to handle it. I really spend an hour to an hour and a half a day just, like, listening to my music, my favorite music, and just, like, figuring out how am I going to get through my day, how am I not going to let anybody bother me, how I'm going to let the static go, categorize what I need to do, and stay focused on me and what I need to do and who I need to be, who I need to help, and how to be kind throughout that day. And so when you unpack it, I pack it through physical fitness and just put my mind in right space when you walk into a room that you know is a table full of men, right? And what you're going to be judged on. I walk through my day before I get to my day. And so when something hits me, I am ready for it. And then I just try to move on from there. It is challenging. We know it. You know it. I mean, you're dealing with the same group of, yes. The audience is the same. And to get where we are is just, it's a tough thing. And all of you know that. You're judged every day, but you have to put in perspective. And it's right. Static. Yeah. Or static. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to say static. Yeah,
static.
But we are
static.
That one girlfriend that we call, that we can unload on. And that's the girl that you call when you need to, like, unload. Incompetence. We got to trust her.
And it's really great that you brought up about girlfriends, right? And so I think, obviously being women leaders, you have to have, I'm a girl's girl. Jenn is a girl's girl. Like I'm in a sorority. I have really great, girlfriends who are just phenomenal. And I ride with them, right?
Yep.
Even if it's like, oh, they were a little wrong on that. I'm not going to tell you that. That's my girl, right? And so I'm a girl's girl. And so for me and my leadership, right, I've always leaned on women, right? And whether it's women who have been in my role before, women who operate as mentors, right? But I also understand, although I'm a girl's girl, not everyone who is a woman is a girl's girl. And I think all of us in here have possibly faced, right, some opposition from other female leaders. And it kind of comes at a surprise, right, oftentimes. And so, yes, right. And so obviously, let's talk about that, right, because I think that's sometimes the elephant in the room. We do talk about, obviously, empowering one another. But the other part is what happens with the empowerment when it's someone who looks like you, who is just not, who's also against you. And so I hear some laughs here. So I think there's some amens, and I'm going to take a sip on that one. Okay. Yeah.
I think we need another show for this one. Hey, another show there. Sequel number 2.
So listen, I hear you, but
I just want to add to that because I think, and it kind of stems from what we were just talking about, is your support system. I have two amazing sisters that are actually here today. Shout out to my sisters over there, but they, having that support system to one, unload, but also when you face challenges of interacting with women that may not necessarily see eye to eye or agree with you, or maybe just a little something against you, having that where you can unload that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, hey, I think we all need it, right? We all need to share stories and really, be able to kind of, express your real feelings, because I think women sometimes, we share too much sometimes, but in my opinion, I don't know if it's too much. I think if that's what you're feeling, that's what you're feeling.
Vulnerability. Yeah, vulnerability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So my sisters have heard me, talk about that. So they, they don't need to tell the stories, but yeah, they.
Yeah. Sisters, I have two.
Yeah, you do. Who are they? Oh, I don't.
Whatever. I mean, we are tight. Okay, so much so that I didn't pledge a sorority because I had sisters at home. Okay,
Right.
but I think for me, when you said that, it made me think of something that State Senator Sarah McBride, who's running for U.S. Congress and hopefully will make history herself, she shared with me a quote. I was speaking of another individual that wasn't supportive of her at one point, but now is. And I said to her, how do you open up yourself to accept that? Like and she said, I will extend grace as long as they continue to demonstrate growth.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, I've thought about that in so many different scenarios with different people that I deal with. And so when I come into a relationship and then someone does not necessarily meet the bar where I had placed it, maybe I placed it too high. Maybe my expectations were too great. Maybe they are living, a difficult time. And so, as I've gotten older, I've learned to extend grace and hope that the relationship will go somewhere else. If it doesn't, that's okay, because then they did not demonstrate growth, fine. But I think it's, once again, that's on them. That ain't on me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose a connection with a sister because I do value sisterhood.
Yeah.
So I will extend grace for a long time. There are a lot of people that shouldn't have gotten as much grace as they've gotten in my life.
Come on now.
But it's been worth it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because those relationships end up, feeding me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And they wind up growing you,
Yes.
right? I mean, they wind up growing you. And I will say, in every experience that I've had with that, whether it was, a sense of betrayal or anything, it teaches you, one, about yourself, right? But then also it builds you up a little bit more. So certainly with that. And so I heard all of you talk about relationships, right? And so, being a woman that leads, transparency point, I am a single woman who is, hoping one day to have the husband and the children and, the family. And so hoping for that one day, but also understanding, when in my leadership and sometimes time isn't there, right? And so how do you, let's talk about it, right? How do we balance all of that? How do you balance being a superwoman, right? And then, okay, well, let's talk about it. You don't.
You gotta get rid of the superwoman.
Okay. But
I'm like, we talk about you have to be superwoman. No,
Yeah.
you don't. You have to be who you are to your family. When I first got into this, I was married and I had two children. I had two young children, and I was balancing a lot, And it's like we use that word superwoman,
yeah.
not man.
Yeah.
We use that superwoman that we're trying to do all this stuff, right? And we're trying to be perfect at everything. And you sometimes have to take a step back and just say, well, first of all, children are number one. My children come first. They just come first, right? And we always come second. But you got to find who you are, and you have to find balance in your life, and you have to be happy at what you do. If you are not happy in what you do, you're going to make everybody else around you not happy.
Come on, for me, that right?
It is.
I like that sort of happiness, seriously, yeah.
So you got to figure out what makes you happy to have that power and to be that superhero. And I went through a divorce, and that was challenging, and I had to figure out where I get my strength from, because you have to dig deep. And yes, you could be superwoman, and that was the word to say all this time. But you just have to figure out who you are, what direction you want to go, and be happy where you are. And to me, it falls into place after that. You just got to love what you do. If you love what you do, it makes it so much easier. If you're miserable, get out. Get out of it. Get out of it. And it's hard to do that. But that's what you need your girlfriend for, to tell you the truth, right? That's the girlfriend. You go back to the girlfriend, and you're like, what am I doing wrong here? But, you know, I went through a divorce, and what I did learn is that I have to lean into my vulnerability. Sometimes we hide from that, and I think your superpower, I call it superpower instead of superwoman, is your vulnerability. And it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay. You know, when I did my first speech as Speaker of the House, and I read my speech, you know, I wrote my speech, you know, I did tear up because I grew up in a family with an alcoholic mom and an absent father. She attempted suicide twice. We moved from place to place, but like, I leaned into that because that's who I am. And I'm okay with that because it made me who I am. But like, I'm happy where I am, but I'm also able to show my vulnerability and be okay with it. And sometimes we put that mask and we try to hide behind it. When you hide behind it, that's when you're going to get in trouble.
Like that, where does that come from now? Because we often do that, right? We often, the mask, where does it come from? Like, let's talk about it, right? I mean, I think that's the deeper thing. And we see a lot of women leaders who, you know, maybe even come into a new organization or start something and they have to, you know, feel like they have to be this tough, this, you know, very hard leader. But then they lose staff and, you know, all these other things are happening. And, you know, really a space of vulnerability would have gone a long way. But where does the mask come from? I mean, I've
thought about this so many years. I'm old. Is that...
No, you're not. No, you're not a mask. No, you're not.
I turned 60 in December of last year. What I find is that throughout my career and always being in management and working in management is that we women were taught, because it was a man's world, to compete against one another. And when we compete against one another, we're climbing over each other to get to that next level, and we're not realizing that we're our power together instead of climbing up. I think we're shown that, like I think I was shown that through my business career, is that you had to step over people because you had to have that seat at the table over that man. Or, you know, and it's just like, so you did that, and we programmed ourselves to be that way instead of realizing that the more women you have around you, the more powerful you become, and you need to help everybody get to that table. I've learned that over the years, that you bring women along, you don't push women back.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just...
I don't know if anyone has anything else to add to that conversation, because I think, you know, that's huge, right? Yeah. And I think particularly for younger women leaders, because oftentimes, you know, I think many of us who are probably sitting on this couch and even in the audience who are women leaders, right? You are exceptional at something, right? And so you spend your whole life being exceptional. And so sometimes being exceptional doesn't allow for that vulnerability, right? It even goes back to the way we have our grading system in school. Did you get an A? Did you get an A? Did you get an A, right? So what if the child got a C, right? You know, so what? It doesn't really matter, right? But it literally starts from there, and then you continue to build that up. And so by the time you have a woman who's leading, right, you have all of that's on her shoulders, right? And especially, I will say, for women who are pioneers, it's really like, this is all on my shoulder, right? And so that vulnerability certainly is key, right, to continue moving on. But I don't know.
And it's our country. It's not just the way that we are socialized. It's a meritocracy. Everything is about, you know, it's you being better than the next person. And even when we raise our children, you know, in the carpool lane, they're like, so where's your kid going to school?
Yeah.
And such and such got a touchdown. And, you know, it's just this competitive nature that really is not, it's not healthy. Wow. And so, I mean, being conscious of that is what kind of safeguards you and then allows you to be vulnerable. You know, we're not conscious of it because everything in our society is telling you to compete against each other, survival of the fittest. You gotta beat down the rest of them. And then all of a sudden you realize you're the only one up there. You done beat down everybody. None of them are coming to help you because you done beat them down. No, right? And you all alone by yourself in a room full of men. Yeah. Oh, well, now, you know what I mean? No. You know, so it's like you have to realize I'm only competing with myself. I'm going to do my best. I cannot, once again, feed into that. You know what I mean? That to me is the real enemy, you know. But I'm all about breaking down systems, so that's just how I roll.
Yeah, I hear you. You have anything to add?
I mean, I think a lot of it is just, in my opinion, too, is, I mean, having that opportunity of embracing women of regardless of age, right? And giving them a platform. I believe in giving women that may not necessarily have the opportunity to have a platform. And how can we raise them up? And that's the biggest thing that's my role. That's one of the things that I see how we can help in women in leadership is how can we embrace women where they are, give them the platform, and let people know who they are and what the impact that they're making in our community, in our business community, regardless of even if you have differences, but encourage each other, because if not, we're only going to continue to break each other down. And that's just, not healthy.
Yeah.
Not healthy.
Yeah. I'm making a point when I do something and I have women around me and I have the opportunity to speak in front of, a group of people, is to make sure that I lift somebody else up next to me and make sure that I give women accolades that deserve it. And you can't be afraid to give somebody accolades because you feel like that they will be elevated over you. Yeah. And I've learned as the speaker is when we do bill signs or like that, recognizing people, Margaret Rose Henry, and making sure that people know it wasn't just you. You can't sit up there and say, it's me, 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 me. You bring the people around you and you let them have a part of that victory and give them the credit that they deserve. It's not just about you. It's about the other people around the room. And what we have to do is lift other women up with us. And I try to do that when I'm in a room full of women. I always acknowledge the people that are around me. Margaret Rose, you know that. Yeah. I always point her out.
Well, just like your sister said, when Lisa goes to Washington,
we all go to Washington.
And I believe that. And I think that's an authentic.
And Lisa does it all the time when she's out. Whenever I'm out somewhere, she recognizes the people that are in the room. She's so good at that, lifting women up.
Especially her baby.
Yes. I know that's right. You don't need lifting up. You're already lifted up. But I do give a shout out. As you should.
And I think, a large part of this is creating the space, right? I mean, and I think all of us have the opportunity to create space where women feel safe, right? Where there's an open space for women to feel empowered, right? And I think it's incumbent, particularly all of us women leaders, to do that, right? And just not for those who may be younger in age, but even for those, who may be seasoned professionals as well, to have that safe space. And so a lot of, hearing a lot about healthy, I keep on hearing that buzzword, healthy, which I love to talk about as well. And so, just not obviously physical health, but also mental health. And I never forget, I was driving home one day. I used to commute back from to Delaware to Philadelphia, and I was driving on 476, and I was tired. I was extremely tired. It was a long day. I was tired, and I wound up talking to a sister cousin, in the car, and I was just expressing just how stressed I was, right? And so she said, let me tell you something, Jenn, until you really get some rest and take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to look at this different. And she was absolutely right. And so I started prioritizing rest, right? And so I'm just curious, what do you all do for self-care? What do you do? What do you do? Okay. You don't know to eat. Listen. Right. No, what do you do for self-care?
I'll be out right. Yes. We're all like, I
don't want to bring everybody down. So you
yeah. Oh, I think for me, I do like to take care of my spiritual health, as well as my physical health. I think I'm like Val, let me just go for a run just to clear my head. But I do believe in making sure that even my team is healthy as well. So that's one thing that I've instilled is, hey, take a mental health day.
Yeah.
It's okay. And, do it. If it's once a month that you have to do it, take that time. And they have been taking advantage of it, which is good. Right.
Yeah.
But, I love it. And I embrace it because I'll say, I'm taking my mental health day today. I'm like, great, good for you, because that's so important. It's important for me.
It's over your team.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I cannot make them take mental health days. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So let me help you help them.
Please.
There you go.
I said this on one too. Well, I want to do well. 2 experiences in my life that will send a signal to you that it is important that you take care of yourself. In 2008, I was running the Obama campaign here in Delaware. I was the state director for the Obama campaign. I was doing 17-hour days. Yeah. I mean, I was working 7 days a week to get that Black man elected to the White House. Yeah. And I did, but at a cost.
At a cost, yeah. Yeah.
I had vitiligo at that time. I had a couple of spots on my body. At the end of that race, I had completely depigmented. The stress hormones in my body triggered that autoimmune disorder to the point where I was no longer brown. Yeah. Listen to your body. When it says stop, stop. Yeah. Last month, 5 years ago last month, I had a stroke. Now that was after helping state and local elected officials get elected, running, teaching 7 classes, raising 2 children. Yeah. I had a stroke. Yeah. But I felt it coming on. I listened to my body. I went to the mirror, said something is not right. And something said, Marla, lift up your arms. I lifted up my arms and my left arm started to just drop. I said, I think I'm having a stroke. Had I not gotten to the hospital, I'd still be paralyzed on my left side. My whole left side was paralyzed. I had to learn how to walk again, write again. 6 months after having the stroke, I was chosen to be an elector for the state of Delaware for Joe Biden. I signed my name 9 times to certify the election in Delaware for that man to be the president of the United States. But it was the stress that led to all of those health issues. So when we don't prioritize ourselves and our bodies and our health, it will stop. It will break down. Listen to your body. It'll tell you. Yeah. It will tell you. I'm speaking to them.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, that's low. Got 42. That's very real. It's just very real. Did we talk about it? Did you want to add something to that conversation? No, but you're absolutely right. And it's, again, I made the move to even that small thing of cutting a 40-minute each way commute. My line sister, my sorority sister, is back there, and she been commenting, Jenn, your skin looks much better. And she would say, girl, you slimming down. So I said, yes, I am. But again, just taking out that kind of stress, right? And I think we need to really look at self-care. I think for so long, we have thought the harder we work, it's associated with our value.
That's right. Correct. And self-care is not going on the vacation. It is stopping and just relaxing for a day at home. It's like
every day you should do at least 1 hour of self-care and intentional, right? So whether it's reading a book, whether it's working out, right? Whether it is, doing whatever, right? That is true. Actually, I like Instagram a lot. So sometimes I'll scroll into reels and things like that. I think I'm like a Spike Lee with the reels. But you have to be very, very intentional about it, right? And I think also not only just for yourself, but one of the things that I recognize even with me and my transition, being able to make sure that I implement self-care, I was also a better leader because I was going into my office happy. I was stressed, right? I was angry. You're stressed. You're angry. I don't want to be here, right? And so I showed up better, right? It was made real, right? I showed up better for my team, right? I showed up better to the community. Right, I wasn't tired. So your self-care, there's other people, other people are depending on you to do tasks. Other people are depending on you too to do some self-care. So you can do, whatever your job is, you can do it much better and be more impactful for those that are around you. There you go. So yeah. And so when we talk about creating those spaces for leaders, right? If you're working 17-hour days, there's a whole other group of leaders who are seeing that and thinking that they got to work 17-hour days, right? So you're absolutely right. So yeah. So I'm also curious, everyone up here, you're multifaceted, you're multi-talented. What's a passion project that you all have been working on lately? Some passion, I want to know what's going on, some passion project.
I am working on documenting Lisa's run for the U.S. Senate. And I I actually want to get 2 documentarian teams. We'll see who gets it done first. But yeah, I've said to her from the very beginning that the way that she runs, that story needs to be told.
Yeah.
And that there needs to be a blueprint.
Yes, sir.
We don't know how to get to that level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the way that they teach people how to run for office is patterned after a white man. And, you know, we don't have those resources or that Rolodex. We don't know the best practices.
Yeah.
And the best practices also don't take into account the intersectionality of a Black woman. So that's my passion project right now.
Nice. I can't wait. Okay. Love it. Love it.
I'll just go with policy, you know, because I am in the General Assembly. Mental health has always been something that was big for me. We're considered part-time as legislators, which is actually a full-time job. But so I have another day job, which is I'm the executive director for the PAL of Delaware, which is an after-school program. Not the one here in Wilmington. It's chartered in Garfield and Delaware City and Hockessin and also in Colonial School District. And what I found is that I'm very passionate about children because of my children and the stuff that I went through. And I know the kids that come into my facility have a lot of trauma in their lives. And you can't teach a child to read and care about what the capital of Delaware is if they're going home at night and their lights aren't on. They're seeing their mom, you know, on opioids and their alcoholic mom, or, you know, they don't know what they're going to go home to. They don't know whether they're going to have food on the table. And, you know, that child goes into the classroom and is expected to learn, and we can't change the education system unless we deal with 2 things: educating our students and their mental health. And what I learned with the children that I see every day is that trauma is there, and we've ignored it for so much in our state. So pre-COVID, I had put out a bill which has a heavy price tag to put more mental health social workers, school counselors, and psychologists into our schools. At that point, there was no ratio. It was like 1 to 1,000 per kid. And as I went up and down the state, I asked the counselor or the social worker, you know, what do you do? And there may be one person for 1,000. They're like, what child do I pick? Who do I pick first, right? And knowing the trauma that these kids had, it had a big price tag to it. And at the time, we didn't have the money in the state. So I broke it up. Instead of having it in all schools, I did it in elementary because I believe you go upstream. Instead of starting with high school and getting into high schools, I'm like, let's start with the little kids, you know, because they don't know, and they don't know how to deal with anxiety, depression, and what they're seeing. They think it's a normal part of life, just like I did. So I got it in the elementary schools. I got it in the middle schools last year. And then this year, I finally got the governor to sign it last week into all the high schools. So, and I still need to do more. I still need to do more about mental health. So when I get back, we've done a lot in that space, and Delaware has gone from the bottom to the top. I'm putting an MSW program at the University of Delaware and do a loan forgiveness program. And we also have a loan forgiveness program for Del State University for their social workers. We have to build that pipeline so we can get them in the school and we can like fuel it. So I'm still working on getting more and more because it's important. It's important to all of us too. We all have our struggles in life, but I think if we start there, so my passion is to continue fighting for mental health in our schools and in the state of Delaware.
It's amazing. Yeah. And let me just say this. Del State was the only school that had an MSW program. Yep. MSW is the credential. Yep. That's what you need. A lot of people are running around here saying they're doing social work, but they are not trained in those theories and practices. They're not doing interventions that have been proven to be successful. They're not trauma informed in their work. And to have an MSW program at University of Delaware to create that pipeline, that is huge.
But the loan forgiveness to get people.
That's the best part because
diversity in that field too.
And the reason why that's important is because they come into that field making very little money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Social workers do not get paid for the work that they do and for that loan forgiveness. So I'm sorry, we turned this into something totally different.
But that's my passion.
But the President's Safer Communities Act, did those dollars come to you because there's in that Safer Communities Act there were monies that were set aside for mental health services in schools, and so I'm curious if when they came to the state, if okay,
The only be reality, like
Yes.
well, I feel that when that money came in, you know, I talked to a lot of people in the state because I think we need to build an infrastructure. It's one thing when we get money, we just start tossing it out here and there. That doesn't fix the problem. If we can build the infrastructure of mental health, and I had a plan, but like I wasn't listened to. So I'm chipping away at my infrastructure that I believe in my head needs to happen. I think it did go to some use, and I think it did small projects and things like that. But I think that we needed to have a bigger discussion around it to figure out how we fix it in the state of Delaware, because we do know mental health causes homelessness, opioids, incarceration, like domestic violence. We know that that's what it is. And until we get a hold of that and we get the mindset of that, I am so passionate about taking and like figuring out what that infrastructure is.
Yeah.
And I will do it.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Let me leave. I love it.
I know. You love it. I love it too. I'm serious. I'm going to get you an army. I'm like, here they are.
Well, that's the reason why we love the Share Passion projects, right? We never know the resources that could be in the room. So, Yvonne.
Well, you know, I'm excited because in November, we have our biggest conference that we have throughout the chamber. It's our Women's Leadership Conference. And it's huge. We get over 500 women. Yes. At the Chase Center, and my director of events is here. She's probably like, yes, say it. But it's in November. It's the Thursday right before Thanksgiving, and we've already just lined up our keynote panel. I'm so excited. So more to come on that, but we have our information ready. But that's a project that I'm really excited about because, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's giving women the platform that we normally don't hear from. Right. We hear from some of the same women, which is great. We need that, right? That's fuel for us. But we also need the women that are also doing the work, right, in the community. Yep. And there's some powerful women out there that we don't know about. We don't. Right. And it's how do we give them that platform? So I'm so excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a DJ, hopefully. So we're really trying to make it a great event. And last year, we had our biggest event to date for women's leadership. We had 550, I think, women that came and supported throughout the region. So this year, we're hoping about the same. So I'm excited, and we have awards that we give out to leadership. And so it's a fun event. So that's a project that I'm very passionate about.
And I'll plug it because I go to it, and they have tables, and all the women's have tables, and you go talk to them. And it's just a great social empowerment. And you do such a great job because it went from 0 to 500, and you did an amazing job. So seriously, yeah, you did. Like, it's a great
pet project, Jenn.
You know, listen, I have several. And so just because I'm always, but from the league, Urban League side, we have our Empowerment Breakfast, which is in November as well. And so really looking forward. This is our second annual Empowerment Breakfast. We do give out community awards. Last year, we sold the place out. And so that was great. And also raised an unprecedented amount of funding for the event as well. So I'm really excited about that. And so more to come. Please follow us at mwl.org and on Instagram and Facebook. But aside from the league, which again, very, passionate about the work that we do at the Urban League, I'm also working, and this has been years in the making, of an actual full-length biography on Coretta King.
Oh.
And so that has been since I've started in graduate school. And so now I've picked it back up again. And so I continue picking it back up. And so Bernice King, if you hear this, please let me have those letters that you have that, because I need that as a primary source document. But it's a great project. And when you talked about the documentary that you were doing, a lot of times we do this great work, but we, maybe we're not the best at writing it down and preserving it, right, for the future generation. And so I'm really excited about this passion project that I have. And then maybe one day somebody will be writing a book about Jenn Thompkins. Who knows? That's the part right there. So I think we are rounding up our time. I'm kind of getting the usher kind of one, like, you better wrap this up. But it has been certainly an amazing evening with all of you. And you all, the information that you shared is just extremely invaluable. And so just really quickly, I don't know if anyone has social media, anything along those lines that you can let folks know where to follow you, websites, any of that. Just because this is, again, this is about empowerment. And so anything that you would like to share as far as getting in touch with you or websites, anything like that you can share.
I mean, the Newcastle County Chamber of Commerce, I just highly recommend you get involved. Follow us on, I think we're on every platform for the most part. Again, you can always reach out to me. My team knows that I'm available, so you can always reach out to me through LinkedIn or email or however you want to look up. I'm on the website, so I'm always available.
Yeah, so I would love for every woman out there to get on a campaign.
Oh, sorry.
Whether it is Kamala's campaign, my sister's campaign,
Mine.
we have
I was going to get to you.
we have races that are happening now. We have a primary coming up, and I want people to not only vote, but I want you to support the candidates.
That's right.
And these strong women that are running. I want you to, if you can't support them financially, knock on doors for them, make phone calls for them, and turn out your friends and family to vote for strong women that can lead. That, my handle is at Marla BC11 on Instagram, and you can always find me at Rutgers. That's where I am. So if you want to get an MSW and join this army that I'm sending Val's way,
It's like not.
come on.
I'll take them. I guess you can get a hold of me, Valerie.Longhurst@Delaware.gov. Or if you want my cell phone, it's 302-562-6640. I give it to everybody. Everybody has my phone number. I don't really care. Text me, whatever I enjoy. Text me and then call me. But, my staff is here. If you, after this, you want to talk to me. Love to have you on my campaign. Would love Lisa to get in. She and I are going to be coordinating her campaign because she is going to be the first female senator in the state of Delaware. And it's
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And for me, it's MWL_Prez on Instagram and Jennifer Thompkins on LinkedIn. And so I also would love if we can just give an amazing round of applause to our studio audience that is out there this evening, for hanging with us, participating with us. This has, again, been an invaluable conversation. Shout out to DETV and all the great work Ivan and your team are doing for this amazing platform. And so I am Jenn Thompkins, and I believe that is a little bit of a wrap. So thank you all so much for joining us for Every Woman, Her Perspective. And we're out. Talk to you later. Bye.
Yes, lady.